Hello everyone, my name is Angelo and welcome to my channel. Today is the 500 round review of the FNH FNX-9. Man, that is quite a mouthful. So basically just to kind of jump right into it, when I first bought this gun, I had intended to immediately put 500 rounds through it at once, but the issue is that, and I'll post a picture up here of my hand, but this grip texture is super aggressive. So it was quite painful after 250 rounds to keep going. That on top of that, since this was my first true this was my first true double single action gun, uh, I was not ready for a 12-pound double action pull for 500 rounds. So, so my finger was quite fatigued, and especially down here in my forearm, right here, I could definitely feel those muscles working, trying to do double action on this gun. And some of you might say, well, why didn't you just shoot it in single action? Well, the thing is, when it comes to double action, single action guns, from what I've been reading on the internet and what I've been told, is that where people really falter is the double action pull. So like people they have a DASA gun, but they only ever shoot it in single action because they can't fire the gun and hit their target in double action. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do that instead. So for my first 250 rounds, I would say at least 100 of them, if not 150 of them, was only in double action. So my finger was quite tired after that, and then I did another 100 rounds and double action to single action, and then I did maybe like one or two mags of single action just to kind of get a general idea of what it was like. And overall, this gun is fantastic, and that was for the first 250 rounds. So for the next 250 rounds, which is what I'm talking about today, uh, it's just kind of at this point now I'm talking about the kind of maintenance that I may have had to do and any form of malfunction. So for the most part, to give you an idea, I shoot Ammo Valley remanufactured ammunition, and this was prior to me researching on the downsides of remanufactured ammunition and actually how it could potentially be bad for your gun. There's another video on that later, and basically, like, I was just kind of shooting it and putting the rounds through. I didn't have any malfunctions at all. The only thing is that after about 200 rounds, the gun, just like in the SIG, right? The gun right here where the takedown lever is gets incredibly hot. So for me as a left-handed shooter, my support thumb is sitting right on it. I'm assuming that the takedown lever on this side is also incredibly hot. That would make sense for you right-handed shooters, but I didn't test that out because again, I'm not a right-handed shooter. But yeah, so outside of that though, there was no issue. There was really no issue. Uh, there was really nothing that I can mention about the gun that was terrible. What I can mention that it's very good. My hands were starting to get real sweaty, and again, the grip texture is just so aggressive that it doesn't phase at all. The slide serrations are also very surprisingly aggressive as well. And the reason why I say that is that when I went to clean my weapon, I noticed that. So I wear a gray undershirt whenever I carry, and I definitely wear a gray undershirt whenever I practice my draw stroke, so that way the gun's not sitting there rubbing up against my stomach over and over again for 100, maybe even 150 rounds. Because I average at least 200 rounds per session at the range, and basically when I was cleaning the gun, I noticed that not only on this portion of the grip right here, this inside grip, but also on the slide serration, so there were actually chunks of my undershirt of where the gun had picked up, like scraped off some of the material. So the gun, that's one major pro about this gun that I really love, is that the fact that it has such great grip texture. Now, the only other thing I can really mention about this gun that I really love is the fact that when it's unloaded, it's 21.9 ounces, which I think is fantastic. To kind of give you an idea, the Springfield XDE, which is a subcompact double action, single action, hammer fired polymer gun, is at 25, which is the same weight as my SIG P320. I don't understand how that works, but maybe FN just makes a better polymer or something like that. But yeah, overall, this is a really great gun. if you guys stick around, I'll eventually have a 1,000 round review and maybe even a 1,500 round review. I think after this point, I'm gonna go up by 500s instead of 250, and to kind of give you an idea. Now, I do clean my gun after every single range session, but again, that is because I carry this weapon. Um, and for me personally, before you kind of light me up in the comments about not putting enough rounds through the gun before carrying it, for me, the way I see it is that when I went through those 250 rounds, I didn't have any malfunctions, and I went through 25 rounds of my carry ammo, and there was no malfunctions there. The only negative thing I could say about this gun is that I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it on camera, but I know every once in a while, yeah, it wouldn't work. So every once in a while, what will happen is that when the gun is in single or double action, it doesn't matter. I've seen it in both ways. I'll go to pull the trigger and it'll just stay back here. It'll look like this, but the hammer actually won't fall. So again, this only happened in single action a couple times, but I'm trying to see if I can. Uh, yeah, so the gun won't do it now. But basically, every once in a while, I'll go to the function test the gun before I leave, and basically what'll happen is I'll pull the trigger back and it won't drop the hammer, but then I would just cycle it and then the trigger, reset the trigger, and then it would fire. And again, in the 500 rounds that I fired it, right, it never happened to me. So the thing is, I think it just might be there just might have been a little bit of grime in the trigger. So this last time that when I cleaned it, I really took it apart and I really cleaned it really well. And then I've been dry firing it since, and I haven't had any issues with that happening. So that is one knock I have about the gun. Again, that could just be my particular firearm and my maintenance. So that's pretty much all I got to say about this gun. If you like the video, go ahead and click like. If you subscribe, you'll see future content and potentially the future review of this firearm at 1,000 rounds and 1,500 and probably 2,000 rounds. And I might just keep going every 500 from there. But basically, the only thing I'm asking at this point is that if you have a Kydex holster for your FNH FNX-9 that is an IWB, ideally appendix carry holster, go ahead and leave a comment down below because I am looking for a holster. If you watch my other video about Vetter holsters, you'll understand why. And I'm just kind of looking for a holster for this gun that's not the Vetter holster. Anyway, I will catch y'all in the next one.